SBA Nation. It is I, your host, Terry Tugboat, joining you today for our quarter-final edition of the SBA Podcast. That's right, we have made it to the postseason in the most highly contested season in league history. So many teams in contention for a playoff spot went down to the final week, and we saw some upsets and some changes in the standings, which we'll talk about in just a moment. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. This has been our biggest season from the podcast standpoint. We've experienced the most growth from the quality and viewership of our podcast, so we'd like to take a moment to thank all the fans. But now, let's look at what happened in Week 13. All right, these were the matchups. We saw the Bower of London take down Hope Ayameke in a game where neither team passed the 100-point mark. The Bower of London struggled heavily out the gate, but thankfully was playing Hope Ayameke, who has 3 more wins than the bye week team, so was never going to lose that one, but he sweated it much more than he probably should have, which I think makes managers and fans of the Bower of London uncomfortable now that he plays the second-place team GABA in his playoff opener. Speaking of playoff teams, we saw 2 others, Drake May and Friends and Nakua in My Coffee, go head-to-head. Drake May and Friends put on a very impressive 142-point showing to take down one of the heavy favorites in Nakua and My Coffee for this year's title. Didn't quite match his projection, but still a great week from Brady Ashola, our second highest point scorer. And one of the teams, we talked about it last week, who Jess Bien needed to lose. Jess was in control of her own fate against Bo's Bandits. If she were to win, because of her point differential, would need either Drake May and Friends, Bill's Bumbling Bobcats, or Colby Bien and Bower of London to lose as well. And that's what she got. We highlighted it, our game of the week, defied the projections, defied the odds, and was able to take down Bo's Bandits pretty handily by 15, the difference in that one. And then she got her other loss as Bill's Bumbling Bobcats couldn't get it done against Lamar. You ready for it? Another game where in which the projections were false. Lamar projected to lose that one. They did, in fact, win that one, however. And then Bill's Bumbling Bobcats lost, falling out of contention and falling all the way to 11th. And then in a consolation game with no meaning, J-Stu took down Litter Biscuits. Team GABA was our lowest scorer, but still picked up win because she was on bye. But, oh boy, going to need to do a lot better than that in the postseason. And then, in the game, Philly Special lost at the hands of Philly Special and Albion lost at the hands of Sean Stewart, who put up 171, 40 more than his projection, and We Are Not Worthy have heard some harsh criticism from us here on the podcast, have been called frauds and not deserving of their ranking. Put the haters to bed with that one, handing Al his first loss of the season. The perfect season will not be possible for Albion and company. Still very much in contention for the championship. But boy, I think that one hurts. I think we were all kind of rooting for Al a little bit to pull off the perfect 17-0 season. Alas, 16-1, his only hope at this point. And then, obviously, we talked about Team GABA won. So We Are Not Worthy did not pull ahead of Team GABA in the standings. And then these were your final look at the SBA standings. Philly Special at 12-1. Team GABA and We Are Not Worthy both at 9-4. Lamar, you ready for it? Our only 8-5 team. And then 5 through 11 separated by a game. Nakua and My Coffee, Drake May and Friends, the Bower of London, and Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am. All the 7-6 teams. And then Bo's Bandits, J-Stu, Bill's Bumbling Wildcats did not get in the final week and fell to 6-7 below 500. Not good enough for a playoff spot, and then some junk at the bottom there. And then our highest fantasy scorer of the year was Jonathan Taylor. And now we will take a look back at what the original Yahoo projections were for the start of the season, what they thought the order of finish would be. And you take a look there. Oh boy, they predicted a 12-1 team. It was not LBN. It was Litter Biscuits, who finished second to last and had just 4 wins on the year. So, interesting decision there from Yahoo. Also projected Litter Biscuits to be our highest scorer at 1,598 rather. They finished, you can see there, with 1,469. So honestly, not that bad of a projection from where they thought Litter Biscuits would end up, but 12-1, certainly not the case. Drake May and Friends, Nakua and My Coffee, Philly Special, J Stu, Lamar, you ready for it? We're Not Worthy, and Lam Bam, Thank You Ma'am. They're projected playoff teams, so they got all of those except for J Stu and then obviously Litter Biscuits right. So that wasn't some bad predictions. They did predict Hope I Am Ekit scraping their way to not being defeated, but did not give Team Gabba much love, who finished in second place, projected to be in 11th place. And then Jamar Chase was our thought to be highest scorer, dealt with some difficulties and some injuries with Joe Burrow being out for most of the season, so we won't harp on him too much there. And then this is the look at the bracket. We see Al and Jespy squaring off in quarterfinal game number 1. Dan and Andrea, the 5-4 pick'em game in the game number 2. Sean and Brady, I think a very high scoring potential matchup. I view that one as probably going to be the most exciting game this week, both coming off a very, very strong performance, both going for 140 plus. Sean obviously over 170, but Brady does have a key factor in the matchup, which we'll talk about in a second. And then our final game is Team Gabba and Team Colby, all 8 of those in the fight for the semifinal spot. And then these are the matchups, the live look at them where we are right now from a points and a projection standpoint. And we're going to talk about the game of the week first here. Drake May and Friends and We Are Not Worthy. We Are Not Worthy predicted to hand it to Drake May and Friends despite a respectable 121-point projection. Drake May and the New England Patriots are on bye this week. So Brady Ashola in a world of trouble there. I mean, what is he going to do without his Lord and Savior and also Travion Henderson, Kayshawn Boutte, who have made many, many starting appearances in Brady's lineup, also not available for selection. So for that reason, I think Brady is still going to give Sean a fight, but I do think We Are Not Worthy will find themselves in the semifinals. Lam Bam, Thank You Ma'am. I think Albion with a bit of a vengeance this week, receiving his first loss of the season, so close to the playoffs and so close to the perfect regular season. Think he takes out a bit of anger this week and hands Lam Bam, Thank You Ma'am a 40-plus point win. That is my predictions. Mark that down. And then Nakua and My Coffee, and are you ready for it? The game of the week this week. I'm going to take Lamar, you ready for it. I just don't view Nakua and My Coffee as having a good team. I view them as having replaced We Are Not Worthy as the fraud of the league, if you will, and are not at all deserving of that 7-6 record. Have a low points for, just also low points allowed, so some squeaked out, some undeserving wins. So I will be picking with Andrea to take that one home against her brother. And then the Bower of London, Team Gabba. The Bower of London in a world of hurt. So many injuries he's dealt with. The Panthers on bye this week. You look at his roster. It looks like a team off the street, not a team that should be fighting in the playoffs. The Bower of London's a miracle that Colby Ben has been able to take his team as far as he has, but I do think his road will end and he will be demolished by Team Gabba. Coming off a very low-scoring week, though, Team Gabba. So maybe I bite my tongue and we hold that thought for next week, but I doubt it. All right, that is going to do it for this week. Thank you so much once again to all of our viewers for coming with us on this incredible season. We saw quite a tremendous amount of growth for the podcast, new viewers, and we've moved to YouTube, so a big upgrade there. And best of luck to all teams participating this week. Unfortunately, no consolation games for our teams that were not skilled enough to be able to make the playoffs. But we hope you have a good week regardless and a good week of watching football. And we'll see you next time for the semifinals. Take it easy.